Show, taking your business from seed to sapling to towering giant, with your hosts, best-selling author and business growth experts Noah Fleming and Sean Veltman. This is the only show that gives you proven, pragmatic, and immediately applicable business growth strategies every week in 15 minutes or less. Here's Noah and Sean.
Hello, everybody, and we're back. Welcome to another fine episode of your favorite podcast. I hope by now it's your favorite, The Evergreen Show. This is Noah Fleming with my co-host, Mr. Sean Veltman. Sean, give me the scoop. Where are you in the world? What's happening? What's going on today? Give me the weather.
Weather is gorgeous. We're just in fall at the time of the recording, so it's perfect dog walking weather. Not sweaty like the summer. It's great to get out for as long as we can. So I'm a happy guy.
I like to hear that. So here's what we're going to talk about today. It is a Thursday. I had sent a request to a company on Sunday. I filled out a lead form on their website. Pretty big company by the looks of it, and asking for a quote on what is probably a pretty pricey job, pretty nice piece of business, and I haven't heard a peep. I haven't heard a single thing. Now you might be thinking, well, come on, like it's only Thursday. Yeah, it's only Thursday. Sean, am I out to lunch here thinking that, on a substantial piece of business with what looks like a fairly successful company, I'm a buyer ready to spend. Am I out of line to be thinking that I should have heard something by now? They have my phone number, they have my email, they have my contact information, they have my address. I haven't heard a peep. What do you think?
I don't think you're out of line at all, Noah. I remember 12, 13 years ago when I was buying domain names still from GoDaddy at that time, I would get a phone call within 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, and for some companies you do. Some companies it's maybe a little too fast, but this is something I see all the time. It's something we work on with businesses all the time, that leads, high quality pieces of business is coming in and falling through the cracks. I've met with CEOs and presidents of companies that tell me, I don't know why my business is struggling. Like, what are we doing wrong here? And then we take a look and we start finding out that, what? One of the things you're not doing is following up on the people that come in saying, I'm here, I'm ready to give you some money, and you're not responding to them. So what can we do here? How can we help people with this problem? Because it's a problem in companies, small companies. It's a problem in big companies. What can we do?
In my experience, and this is going to sound a little frou-frou and hippy-dippy, so bear with me. But in my experience, the first step here is to really ensure that everybody who touches the customers and leads goes through a bit of a mindset shift. And I don't mean have a positive attitude, get your PMA on and all that. What I mean by a mindset shift is this, that you and I have both talked to companies where they've proudly told us, we get back to 90% of our customers within 3 days, or we follow up on 95% of our leads within 2 days. And of course, the question that you and I will always ask first is, what about the other 5% that you're not getting in touch with?
Exactly.
How much does that represent? We've talked to companies that do $100 million a year in sales, and they tell us they follow up with 95% of their customers or their leads. Well, there's $5 million that's off the table. And often it's off the table because somebody who makes $60,000 a year thought they were too busy to follow up on that $5 million of business.
Let me give you another horror story from the opposite angle. So I was doing work with a $1 billion publicly traded organization, over $1 billion a year. And at their sales conference, they played this really fun, sort of interesting game on their people, where for 2 weeks they kept calling their own company, secret shopping themselves, and asking the question, I'm just curious, but do you guys happen to do this? Or I'm just curious, but are you able to help me with this? Here's the horror to this and the flip side of what you said. For 90% of the calls, the wrong answer was given every single time. No, we don't do that. No, we don't offer that. When in fact, they were blatantly wrong. They did these things every single time. And so, this was funny and everybody was laughing. They recorded these calls over a 2-week period. So I immediately got up there and said, guys, this isn't funny. We should not be laughing about this. This happened over 2 weeks. What's happened over the past 6 years or the past 6 months? How many billions of dollars has fallen through the cracks? And I think this is where I just get so fired up and upset about this. Leads coming in, falling through the cracks, people trying to give us cash, give us money, give us opportunities, and we're just letting them sort of, go gently into the wind with no response, no follow-up, nothing. It's brutal.
I couldn't agree with you more, Noah. It's it's one of those things that ends up being a really easy thing to fix that has huge impact. As we've talked about, even if you've got 95% adherence, that 5% is still a very big number, especially when you consider that it's almost all going to be profit. Your business is working well, you're making money with the 95% follow-up. That extra 5% is all going to be profit. And in a lot of companies that we work with, that can have a much larger than 5% impact on the net profit at the end of the year.
Well, I heard your mail come through there while you were talking, so that maybe was a lead for you. So you better make sure you get on that right away after we're done here. But yeah, I mean, again, for our listeners out there, especially those who are CEOs or presidents or owners of organizations or people charged with making sure this isn't happening, believe me, it's happening, and it's happening in businesses of all sizes. I gave you an example of the billion-dollar organization. I know Sean has built tools and systems for smaller companies where they've been having this issue. There was another client where the CEO, it was maybe about a $75 million annual revenue company. The CEO assured me that every time, and this is just a sort of another example of this, every time they brought on a new client, that this process kicked into gear, this new client onboarding process. And I said, oh, that's great. And he said, every single time this happens. And so I just watched for a week. I watched to see how many times this actually did happen because I didn't believe him. And sure enough, it happened about 10% of the time. The letters weren't getting mailed, the calls weren't being made, the people weren't being followed up on. And so on the flip side, these were actually now people that had been converted to clients, but were immediately starting off with this really poor experience because this thing that they thought was happening wasn't getting done. So let me ask you this, Sean. The thing I always like to ask is what advice can we give our listeners to help them make sure this isn't happening? And if it is, what can we do to rectify it? I've got a few ideas, but I'm going to toss the softball to you first.
Well, my first piece of advice really comes back to something that we like to say a lot, which is you can't expect it if you don't inspect it. And so what I mean by that is if you don't have measurement in place, if you don't have exception reporting in place, if you don't have some way to tell you when things aren't being done, then you really shouldn't be surprised when they aren't being done. I remember working with one company and they found 40 to 50% of the leads that were coming in from online sources weren't getting followed up on. So we built some reporting for them that tied in the online lead generation system into their CRM, and it became very easy to send a report to the CEO every day saying, here's all of the leads that came in that haven't been followed up with in the last 3 days. And very quickly, that number dropped from 50% down to about 5%.
Yeah, it's very, very quickly because you put that simple mechanism in place to make sure that was happening. I would guess that's probably a similar company that's running around saying, we've got a marketing problem. We need to find more leads, more customers. Oh my gosh, I get so angry about this. There was another example where people were just coming through the door and doing business with one of our clients, but nobody was following up on them. Nobody was putting them into the CRM. No salesperson was touching base. Nobody was getting in touch after the fact. And so they were getting all these one-time sales, but nothing was happening after the fact. And so they believed they had a retention issue, when in fact, what they really had was another issue of just letting things fall through the cracks. And so I like your advice. I would ask yourself, and I would ask people that are listening today, again, what Sean said, you can't expect what you can't inspect. So what tools, what mechanisms, what processes, what checklists, what things do you need in place to make sure that the things that you want to actually happen are getting done? What can you use to actually help you inspect that? It might be as simple as a checklist, right? I've told the story before of the guy who said his business wasn't following up on $60 million worth of quotes. And so we put a simple checklist in place for every time they quoted. 3, 6, 9 days after the fact, did you follow up? Yes or no? And if the answer was no, the question was why? And that's as simple as it can be. We've talked again, Sean, about how a lot of the stuff we recommend to companies isn't rocket science. It's rather quite simple. And so I think this to me here is one of these simple situations that, listeners and certainly people we work with can rectify really quickly.
I think that's absolutely on the money, Noah. The only thing I'd like to add to that is just to remember that, as leaders, as managers, we have a responsibility to make sure that what we're asking for is getting done. And we need to hold ourselves to that same level of accountability as we ask our people to hold themselves to. So it's not enough to say, here's your process, go do it, and then be surprised in a year when nothing got done. We also have to build systems, build processes. It might be, as you said, a checklist that at the end of every day, ask them, hey, did you follow up on all the leads? Show me. It may be automated. It may be part of software, part of your ERP or CRM. Whatever it is, though, make sure that you are comfortable that if something isn't getting done, you are going to find out about it sooner rather than later.
So great topics there for other podcasts as well, which is the concept of exception reporting, which we do a lot of work with a lot of organizations. So building the types of systems that actually give management the upper hand to not go, from Sunday to Thursday without a quote being followed up, but management getting reports on Tuesday or even Monday for that matter, that's saying, here's all the leads that came in on Sunday that have not been followed up on. And then that gives management the ability to go in and say, hey, what's going on with Noah Fleming's quote request here? This guy's ready to give us some money. Why has nobody followed up on this? Are you not taking your job seriously? Or are we just not giving you the type of support you need? So I have an idea for a challenge this week. I'm sure you have an idea. So maybe we're going to have a double challenge. I don't know. But here's my challenge. And then I'll give you a chance there. I would ask our listeners to really think about how confident they are that leads and opportunities aren't falling through the cracks. I would challenge you to test your business. Test your business in some of your own ways. I gave you the example of the billion-dollar organization that used that funny trick to call companies and record the calls and make this great thing for the sales conference. But if you called your business and asked do you do this? Do you sell this? Do you offer this question? Would your people actually be able to respond accurately, or would they fail 9 times out of 10? If you have a quoting system, get somebody to submit a quote and see how long it takes for one of your people to get back to them. See how long it takes before somebody actually responds in an accurate and effective way. So that's my challenge. Sean, you got another one, or you want to add to that in any way?
I think that's absolutely fabulous. Here's my suggestion or my challenge is do some back of the napkin math for yourself and assume that you're following up on 95% of your quotes. Give yourself a lot of credit. Figure out how much profit you're losing from those 5% that you're not following up on.
Oh, that's good. That 5% might be scary. And what's even scarier is when we start to look at examples that, again, flip it the other way. They're only getting it right 10% of the time and 95% of the time. Sean's giving you the benefit of the doubt here. I'm not being that nice today. I'm just in that kind of mood. So anyway, Sean, anything else you want to add for our listeners today?
I think that's a great podcast. I'll close the loop and say, on the mindset piece, remember, we can't abdicate our responsibility. We can't tell people to do something and not follow up ourselves. We can't tell our people to follow up on leads, but then also not be following up with them to make sure that it happened. So make sure you've got the systems, the processes, the culture in place that allows you to be fully confident that what you're asking is getting done. Remember, you can't expect what you don't inspect.
Love it. And of course, the shameless part of me now says if you need help with this, there is a company out there that can help you with this. We've helped a lot of companies do this, and we'd certainly love to help yours. But anyways, take the challenge, listen to what we're saying, take this stuff to heart. It can change your business. It can grow your revenue. It can increase your sales. That stuff is there, ready and willing for you. So Sean, thanks again as always. For our listeners out there, please leave us a review on iTunes. You know the gig. Share this with others that you'd like. Share this with the companies that have let your business fall through the cracks. And we will listen to you. We will talk to you next week. Thanks,
How
folks.
do we get in touch, Noah?
That's a good question, Sean. Just reach out on my website, noahfleming.com, or you can send me an email, noah@noahfleming.com. We'll talk to you next week, folks.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us each and every week for another great episode of The Evergreen Show with your hosts, Noah Fleming and Sean Veltman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on The Evergreen Show.